Welcome to this week's WIOA Wednesday webinar on the Wagner-Peyser services provided through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. As usual, we ask that everyone mute their phones. Chelsea has provided the instructions on the screen there. At the end of the presentation, the IDES staff will take questions, as well as DCO staff will take some questions if necessary. Today's main presenter will be Antoinette Golden with IDES. She has quite a staff assistance available to answer questions as well. They may participate in the presentation. So with that, Tony, if you want to go ahead and start the presentation, welcome to our webinar series.
Thank you so much, Mark. As he said, I'm Antoinette Golden. I'm with the Illinois Department of Employment Security. I'm the statewide manager for our special population programs. And so we're just going to get into talking about the employment services that are available through the WIOA offices. And the first thing we're going to do is talk about who actually are allowed to receive our employment services. Our employment services are available to everybody, regardless of whether or not they are claimants, unemployment insurance claimants, whether or not they're veterans, persons with disabilities, youth, returning citizens, migrant and seasonal farm workers. But we do have targeted programs, and I think that's something that most people know us most for with regard to our employment services, are our targeted population programs. The first one we're going to talk about are our veteran services. We consider our veterans those who served on active duty for a period of more than 180 days and were discharged or released with other than a dishonorable discharge. They were either discharged or released from active duty because of a connected or service disability. And if they were released because of a service-connected disability, they could actually have served for less than 180 days. And the same goes for those who served on active duty during a period of war or in a campaign or expedition for which a campaign badge is authorized. They also can have served less than 180 days as long as they did not receive a dishonorable discharge. The services that are provided through our Veteran Services Program are provided specifically by the Disabled Veterans Outreach Specialists. And pretty much what they do are they provide career and employability assessments to those who have significant employment barriers. They do referral to supportive services in different organizations. They coordinate with the local veterans employment representatives, which are our job development staff for the veteran program.
Hey, Tony, this is Mark. Sorry to interrupt. I know we were thinking of taking questions at the end, but if we can go back to that last slide, I think it's important to note to everybody that some of the services you do provide have been provided by the Title I-B staff as well, including career employment assessments and development of IEP. I think this brings up the important point that we've stressed throughout these webinars, that this, under WIOA, this is a coordinated effort between all of our partners. And so, you know, if there's an employment plan developed, maybe it started at the Veterans Administration level, and then they come to you for assistance. You can accept that employment plan, review it, make sure that it's comprehensive enough for your services. Similarly, if they are then referred or transferred on to the Title I-B staff, we can also review that IEP. Thank you. We can also review that IEP that has been conducted by somebody else to ensure it's got all the information that we want to see to assist us in determining somebody else, would also assist us in determining what services we want to provide at the Title I-B. And conversely, that could go the other way. So someone could come to us and we might refer them to you or someone in the IDES staff to assist them further. One of the other coordinated efforts are that you do not provide the supportive services, but Title I-B can do that. So when you're out there and as staff of the of these facilities, if you find an individual under the IDS control, I guess, or what have you, you can forward those on, refer those on to the Title I-B staff to get those supportive services. So I just wanted to, stop us at that point and make sure we're understanding this coordination of services as you go through your presentation today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and thank you for mentioning that, Mark. I think it's really important to note that the programs that we'll talk about today and the services that we provide today are typically basic services. However, we do rely on the Title I-B programs and staff to facilitate services that we don't provide, especially some of your special services. And so I think it's important also to mention that when we look at, like, for instance, the veterans, the program that we're talking about now, when we identify that they have significant barriers to employment, we have a roster of different organizations in specifically our Title I-B staff and Title I-B programs that we can refer these job seekers out to. Our next targeted program is our Hire the Future program. And it's
Tony,
specifically...
I concur with that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is Tori, but I concur with that.
Okay. Our second program that we're going to talk about is our Hire the Future program, and it's specifically for youth ages 16 to 24. Originally, our program was, it stopped at 21, but back in 2009, 2010, we kind of extended it to 24, and we changed up our parameters a little bit, and so now we provide services to all youth ages 16 and 24. However, we do have targeted populations, and within those targeted populations, we identify them as students, who are those either in high school or college or some type of training program, the disconnected and at-risk youth, who are identified as not currently enrolled in school or any type of training program, and they also might be low income. Now, they may or may not necessarily have a GED. However, if they're not currently in school, they are identified as disconnected and at-risk youth. And then also the juvenile justice youth, which are those who are enrolled in a correctional institution or identified as returning citizens. Now, again, we provide the basic services, which is something that we'll talk about a little bit later. We provide the basic services to everyone, including the Hire the Future population. However, we do have specific outreach that we do for Hire the Future, which is conduct the school visits, the state and local collaborations with other, programs who either may offer similar services or they may need assistance with offering some of the other programs or services that we offer for those youth. We work with the community and faith-based organizations, and again, like I said, the juvenile detention centers, and that's the outreach that we do. Now, specifically within the WIOA offices, we'll do a lot of referrals out if we can't specifically provide those job seekers with services. A lot of times we see job seekers who need assistance with housing and other supportive services that we don't provide. So we'll refer them out to our other partner programs. Another targeted program that we have is our Reentry Employment Service program for our returning citizens. Now, understand, people often misunderstand our program as specifically for those who were formerly incarcerated, but we also work with any individual with a criminal conviction who may need help in finding employment. Now, that they may have an arrest record or something like that on their background that may prevent them from getting employment. And so we work with them to identify different employment opportunities, but also to make sure that they're job ready. The outreach that we provide through our reentry service program, we conduct prison and correctional center visits. We do the summits, the prison summits, the Summit of Hopes for those who are on parole. We do the state and local collaborations. We currently have a collaboration with DOC identifying different employment initiatives for their inmates who are soon be released. Also, we work with community and faith-based organizations. And then our services for people with disabilities. Now, while we don't necessarily have a specific structured program for people with disabilities, it's not a targeted population, we do identify the fact that those people need services through us. And so we've identified some different supportive services, and we've put that information on our website. The additional programs we have are the Migrant and Seasonal Farm Worker Program and our Apprenticeship Program. Now, the Migrant and Seasonal Farm Worker Program, for the most part, it's specifically for people who are seasonal farm workers. They only come into the area specifically during a certain season to work. And we also have migrant food processing workers. A lot of times people don't realize that that food processing workers actually come into the area seasonally or at specific periods of time to work, and then they migrate on to another location. And then that goes the same thing for farm workers. Now, the services that we provide to those individuals, we make sure that they have adequate housing, adequate shelter. We become an advocate for those individuals. And if by chance they decide that they want to get out of the current work that they're doing, they specifically can come to us, and we will work with them to make sure that they're job ready and make that transition a little easier for them. With the apprenticeship program, what we do is we identify different unions who have, when they take their application process, they take their application process at different times of the year for the most part, and sometimes it's difficult to keep up with exactly when they actually have their open application process. So what we do is we take a standard application, and we forward it to the unions. And so pretty much what it does is it becomes a priority for the unions. When they do open up their application process, they look at the forms that we've submitted to them, and they reach out to those individuals for apprenticeship and let them know that they are currently accepting applications. So it's almost like a way to get a heads up when the application process opens through the union, so you don't necessarily have to try to figure out which unions are currently accepting applications. Now, we included the service matrix in our presentation primarily because we wanted to show exactly the career services that are provided and how they're provided. We have our outreach and intake orientation through our reemployment service program, and that information is provided on staff and through technology. Labor exchange services through our IllinoisJobLink.com. I'll talk about that a little bit later. These are the basic career services that each person is afforded. So the labor market information, that information is available through our Economic Information and Analysis Division. We have information about the availability of supportive services and referral to these services, and that's what we're talking about in terms of referring to the Title I-B programs. Information and assistance with UI claims. We provide that as well for different people who are currently not in work through no fault of their own. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, some of the basic services that are provided are the job readiness and the workforce development services. Now, what this consists of, soft skill workshops and one-on-one assistance like your basic application preparation, resume writing, interview preparation, identifying resources and making referrals. That's the basic job readiness and workforce development services that we provide. We also provide employment assistance through our labor exchange program, IllinoisJobLink.com. Job seekers, they can build different resumes specifically for different industries, and business owners can also use keyword matching. So it's an opportunity for businesses to match with people with the characteristics that they're looking for specifically for their open job. and it's no cost for the employers or the job seekers. And that's one of the things that we're pretty proud about, in the sense that there are other job boards out there. However, there's absolutely no cost to the job seeker or to the employer. A lot of times employers, they actually have to pay a fee to post their job orders on different sites, and our job board does not require you to do that. Other employer employment assistance we provide is employer incentives. We are the disseminators of the Federal Fidelity Bonding Program, and which is an insurance for employers, as well as like different tax credit. We provide information about the Work Opportunity Tax Credit and different tax credit for returning citizens, veterans. We provide information about that. And we incorporate all of this when we do our employer service outreach presentations and different things like that when we do our job development. Other services we provide is career development. We have a career information systems website that's controlled by our Economic Information Analysis Division, and we have a job seeker mindset training that pretty much addresses the mindset of job seekers and why they're being inhibited, if you will, on getting jobs. I mean, sometimes it's beyond just the soft skills or beyond the hard skills. Sometimes there's other factors that come into play, and that's what the job seeker mindset training addresses. And then we have research on hundreds of different occupations, career assessments to help identify career interests. The assessments are based upon your skills, your interests, the different important things that are important to you when you're identifying an occupation. Then we also have a reality check to help you compare the quality of life with occupational interests. We help you research different colleges and in the majors that they offer. And then there are almost 3,000 different sources of financial aid, including grants, scholarships for different levels of education. And then we have our hiring events. Our hiring events are not necessarily just standard job fairs. Typically what we do is we identify job seekers who have the skills that those employers are looking for. Oftentimes what we'll do is we'll identify the job that they're promoting, and then we'll go into our IllinoisJobLink.com system and identify job seekers that have those characteristics. We'll specifically reach out to them through our phone notification systems, through our email blasts, and we'll set up times where they can actually come in and meet with the employer. So it's not just necessarily a basic job fair where we just kind of open it up to the public and just say, here, these people are offering jobs, come get a job. We really try to tailor it and customize it to the employer's needs. And all of this is done through our business services team. And pretty much they're a statewide team that are geared specifically to the needs of the employer. So like I said, they identify what the employers are, what's important to the employer. And then they take that information and they identify different job seekers to make sure that they can match appropriate job seekers with these employers. Now, employers, they can receive no-cost assistance with the hiring, the training, the retraining, and they can learn about the grants, the tax credits, and the other incentives available through our agency. Illinois businesses can also receive assistance from their local business service manager to post the job openings in our IllinoisJobLink.com system and coordinate with recruiters in the WorkNet centers to do like on-site recruitments. Also, people who work with the employers are our local veterans employment representatives. These people, this staff, they specifically work like our business services team. They provide all the different services that the business services team provide. However, these staff, they're specifically for veterans. They specifically advocate for veterans initiatives, and they pretty much engage with the different hiring executives to see the importance of hiring veterans. The other service provided through our agency is the unemployment insurance. And as I mentioned earlier, unemployment insurance, I'm pretty sure most of you all know, is for those who lose their job through no fault of their own. It's an insurance that replaces the wages that people receive when they're out of work. And as of right now, it's for 26 full weeks in 1 year. I know a lot of people were still hoping for extensions and different things like that, but there are no extensions. And so it's 26 full weeks in 1 year period. The unemployment insurance cannot and does not protect individuals against wages loss while they're absent from work due to illness or while they're idle by choice. So like I said, through no fault of their own. We also provide the services through our reemployment service program. Now, this is a program that's mandated by federal law. We administer a fast-track reemployment system targeting UI claimants most likely to remain unemployed during the entire benefit period. Each month, at least 30 unemployment insurance claimants are profiled for almost all IDES offices, and claimants are notified of mandatory workshops. And those workshops consist of the basic skills that we previously mentioned, like the networking, the employment application, resume writing, interview, tips on using IllinoisJobLink.com, and different things like that. Now, a program that's due to come up in our offices in 2016 is the Reemployment Services and Eligibility Assessment. Now, this is something coming to our offices in the services that we provide in the WIOA offices, and this will actually replace our reemployment and eligibility assessment program in 2016. It'll target UI claimants identified likely to exhaust their benefits. However, the key difference between this and the RES workshops is that this program right here will more than likely be like one-on-one assistance as opposed to workshops. We currently offer workshops in some of our standalone offices, but also in some of our WorkNet centers too. If the WorkNet center, a lot of them will request that we offer workshops, and so we'll do the workshops in the RES centers. The WorkNet centers as well as our standalone offices. But this new program, it will offer one-on-one assistance as opposed to just the workshops. Currently, we have centers scattered throughout the state. There are about 14 centers right now. 15 centers, because our website says 3 sites in Chicago, but there are actually 4. And then we have, if you notice, we have them in Maywood, Bradley, Lisle, Woodstock, Waukegan, Rock Island, Decatur, Danville, Carlinville, Marion, and Harrisburg. But we also have 22 IDES employment field offices. Now, if there's anything that we can't necessarily provide in the WorkNet Center, for instance, if they need specific unemployment insurance assistance, we can also send them to our standalone field office where they might get more detailed attention on unemployment. That's about it.
All right, thanks, Tony. I know we need to go through all these questions, but I want to kind of lead into those questions with a couple things. First, I'm going to start at the back here, where you identified your job center locations. We want everyone to understand that's an IDS, location and maybe an IDS term, that it doesn't necessarily mean it's a one-stop center, that it's a Title IB provided center. So we want people to understand that, you're using maybe a little bit different terminology. But I know you've been involved in some of the interagency team meetings, and unless you have more insight, I think the coordination of efforts, which we've talked about, and how we're going to co-locate and all that, I think those are still up for debate and up for discussion, and there's really not much we can answer as far as questions on how that's going to come together at this point in time. Is that correct?
That is correct. The logistics are still being worked out on that, yes.
Okay, while we're on job centers, I'll just ask this quick question. Those are all public facilities, right? Anybody can walk into your job centers?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Now, leading into a lot of these questions, we need to keep in mind that again, going back to the interagency discussions that are ongoing, coordination of services is a big part of WIOA and WIOA implementation, and those things are still trying to be worked out. So while a lot of your services you indicated are provided are similar to what Title I-B might provide, as well as some of our other agency partners, getting those down to a level of where they're not duplicative services is still under discussion. So we might skip a question or two as we go down this list because of that reasoning. We really just don't have the answer to some of those questions. We don't know where our final locations are going to be. We don't know exactly everybody that's going to be in a center, although we know that a comprehensive center has to exist in each LWIA. And within that comprehensive center, we know there are certain partners that have to be present in those. The additional partners are what we still have to figure out. So there were a few questions that came along, and so please, everyone, bear with us in the fact that we just don't have answers to those yet. I hate being a broken record repeating over and over, but until those discussions are over with, we just can't provide much more guidance on that. So having said that, we'll go ahead and start with some of these questions. Tony and your staff, if you can do as best as you can to answer those, and feel free if you still know you have discussions and don't have the answer to hold off on providing that. We can maybe develop a Q&A after this once we get some of those answers and post those to Illinois WorkNet as well. So we'll start at the top here. We had several questions that asked, when you were talking about, you IDS provide services, you say we provide services, is that IDES staff, or is that in conjunction with providers or other entities through referrals, or a combination of all?
Well, that's specifically, those are the services that we provide as an agency. So IDES staff actually do provide those services. Now, depending on the WorkNet center, the relationship, they may, the intensive services may be a little bit better over in the WorkNet center, so they will refer them to the WorkNet center, but those are specifically the services that we provide in our agency, the staff provide.
Great,
yeah.
Okay. With those services, are they all available in your 15 job centers?
Yes.
Okay, and again, we don't know necessarily, we didn't do a cross mapping of where yours are in relation to where the Title I-B or one-stop centers that many of the people on the attending this webinar are familiar with. So do you know of any of those that aren't your job service or job centers on that map that would be available in the other one-stop centers, such as in Springfield? We have a main facility here that wasn't on your map, and that's just one example of the several local areas that have one-stop, comprehensive centers that are not appearing on your map. Are you familiar with our Title I-B facilities, and are there any of those where you provide services at?
Well, a short answer to that, we provide services. Not necessarily, if we don't have staff in the offices, we can't provide services in a center that we don't necessarily have staff in. However, these offices here, the ones that we have mentioned, they're considered the comprehensive offices. As far as I know, they're considered the comprehensive offices. Now, we refer them to Title I services within the office, yes.
Okay. With the Hire the Future Youth, what all services do you provide to them beyond, you've mentioned the basic career services? What additional services do you provide them?
I'm trying to kind of understand the question. You said what additional services we provide besides the basic services?
We'll assume you provide the basic services to all your customers.
Yes.
But someone has indicated, what services do you provide to Hire the Future? So I guess, are there any additional services that you've developed specific to that group of youth individuals?
It's more specific. It's more, I shouldn't say specific, it's more intense, put it that way. We provide like the career development, for instance. We provide access to the career information systems workshop. I mean, not workshop, but website. However, with our Hire the Future program, we can actually take you through the site. We can actually conduct workshops taking youth 16 to 24 through the website. And so our services are more intense, if you will. So the services, yes, the services are the same. However, they're provided more intensely with the targeted populations.
Okay. I noticed your eligibility populations for youth, and they do cross over our youth both in school and out of school as far as age and some of the criteria. So, again, that's one thing each of the centers will have to work out as to referrals and who can qualify for both Title I-B and Wagner-Peyser, as well as the other. We don't want to eliminate or forget about all our other agency partners and the services they provide. From our standpoint, being the Title I-B administrator in Illinois, it would be great to be able to totally match those up to see which of those populations cross into the in-school and out-of-school youth for our purposes of Title I-B. So, we can have those discussions, or maybe those are something that will occur as the services matrix gets finalized at the interagency level. But it was good to see that the majority of our youth probably would fit into your classifications as well. Okay, another question is, do you actually provide work experience or work-based learning activities? And if so, is that through your funding, or are you referring them to get these types of training experiences?
It's through referrals.
Okay, so you do not provide training specifically?
No.
Okay.
No.
What programs, what exactly are the programs you provide? Well, we went through a list of those, and how do they work with 1B? Again, I think that's something to be worked out through that services matrix discussion of exactly who will provide some of these services, because the final product of what we'll see once those discussions are over is going to be totally different than what we see now, I assume. Correct, Tony?
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, yeah.
Okay, so that's one we probably can't really answer now because it's going to change, fairly rapidly as those discussions occur. All right. With the reentry program, again, is that a referral type service, or is it your individuals, your staff providing them at the local offices?
We provide basic services at the local office. If there's supportive services that are needed, then we can refer those to the WorkNet centers.
Okay. Again, apprenticeship programs, I assume that's similar to the other work-based learning programs where you don't actually provide those, but you can connect people with apprenticeship programs and refer them, and the funding of that training program would be via whoever you refer to, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just scrolling through some of these, we appreciate all the knowledge you're providing us. And some of these, again, are kind of duplicative, so I don't mean to necessarily specifically skip over, but we have answered some of these that I'm scrolling through down. How do you coordinate programs between, the different agencies at the local one-stops that you are especially located at? And maybe a follow-up question to that is, at this point in time during the discussions of the interagency teams, do you have any insight on how maybe that's going to be handled going forward as far as coordination of services to address WIOA's requirement for coordination and reduction of duplication?
Well, with regard to going forward, we're still working on a unified plan, so we really don't necessarily know the logistics of that just yet. However, the coordination currently that goes on with our programs and the WorkNet centers, we usually allow the WorkNet centers and our employment service program managers the autonomy to create that collaboration. We know what services we provide, and they know what services that they provide, and so we have our staff on location to provide all of our services. However, WorkNets are different, just like our staff are different. Some WorkNets they may be stronger in other areas and vice versa. And so we allow our employment service managers as well as the WorkNets the autonomy to kind of collaborate how those services are connected.
Okay, with regard to business services teams, you've indicated how you reach out to the businesses, and just wondering what all do you do? Do you do training with them, or what real services are available from that business services team?
We have Tori Davis on the line. Tori is our Northern Region Business Service Manager. And Tori, can you address that?
Sure. I didn't hear the question clearly, though.
Someone was just wondering what all services you provide through the business services team, because Title 1B has business connections as well, and so they're kind of wondering what you provide. Then they can kind of think through what they provide, and maybe, as they go forward and try and coordinate the services, have a better idea of how that could be done in a more efficient and effective manner. So just a little bit of overview of what the business services teams does from your end of it.
Sure. So when we go out and visit with employers, we go out to offer assistance with filling their openings, as far as assistance with Illinois Job Link, providing them an opportunity to post positions at no additional cost, notifying them of the tax credits that they can receive through WATC, notifying them of the Fidelity Bonding Program. We try to take an approach of trying to save the employers money by the different state programs that we offer. We provide employer workshops. We approach different chambers to provide employer workshops to let them know of the overall services that we provide. In those workshops, we include different benefits for employers or different information for the employers, including help with their rates and things like that. And that's really about all the services that we offer when we go out.
Okay, so you touched on a couple. One of the other questions was what other grants and incentives do you provide to businesses? And so basically you're looking, as you mentioned, for all those tax breaks and anything like that to assist the business in kind of reducing their costs. Any other grants or incentives that you might be able to mention?
Well, we have the grant for returning citizens. We have the Illinois grant for returning citizens, as well as I'm not sure of all the employer incentives, but I know the Illinois tax grant for returning citizens is one. The Work Opportunity Tax Grant. Tori, are there any other that I'm missing?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like that would be it.
Okay, with these reemployment services, are those held at your facilities?
As I mentioned, they're held for the most part, at our standalone offices. However, there have been different WorkNet Center managers who've actually asked us to provide them in the actual WorkNet centers. And so what a few of our employment service managers have actually started doing is providing an opportunity for the RES workshops to take place within the WorkNet centers. Yes.
Okay, and someone's just we want to reemphasize that, you use the term job centers. Those are where you have staff located, but you also have staff in the comprehensive one-stops as well. Mm-hmm. So is there a better definition of what you consider your 15 job centers that are different than what we consider a one-stop? I mean, are they standalone, meaning that nobody else is there but IDS staff?
The standalone offices are. Now, the one-stops, for the most part, to my knowledge, we use those interchangeably with WorkNet, okay, with our job center services, yeah.
Okay. All right, so all of your online services are provided through Illinois Job Link. Do you have any connection to Illinois WorkNet at this time, providing services through Illinois WorkNet?
Wait a minute. Can you repeat that question? I'm
Okay,
sorry. You know what? I was trying to read. I was trying to read some of the stuff on the side too, so
okay,
I got a little preoccupied. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You have Illinois Job Link where you provide a lot of information. You provide job searchability. Do you have any connection to Illinois WorkNet now? Does IDES work with the Illinois WorkNet staff and provide information on Illinois WorkNet at this time, or is all of your information available through the Job Link and IDES websites?
All of our information is available through Illinois Job Link. Now, we do provide referrals to Illinois WorkNet. I think we have, access to them from our website and stuff like that. However, with regard to our job board and stuff, it's specifically through Illinois Job Link.
Okay. Again, we're continue to scroll down through these. I think we've answered some of these as far as training. Again, asking how those are handled. That's all through referral to training providers, not actual IDS staff providing that. As Mark Lohman said, or is asking, this will all change. Yes, I think, Mark, you're correct. And we don't really know how that's going to look, the collaboration, the teamwork, or group efforts at the state level till those interagency meetings progress a little further and we get some answers. So again, unfortunately, we can't answer kind of the coordination of efforts questions that people might have. As far as going forward, I think important for our Title I-B administrators to just keep in contact with, with these other agencies to see if there's, any new developments where you can start progressing on that collaboration of efforts. Keep in touch with whomever on the Title I-B side is sitting on the interagency teams. Ensure that they're providing you with updated information if anything is available. Obviously, some of the discussions will occur without any decisions made. That doesn't mean they're not progressing. They just don't have any decisions, so they may not have anything to share as far as going forward. Until then, we've kind of told people to somewhat act as they've done in the past until new direction comes down. But by all means, if you can work with the agency partners in your locations now, under what we already know, you can start that process. You just don't want to get too far ahead of yourselves to where you go offline with what final decisions might be made down the road.
If I could kind of speak to that as well. Some people are also in the transition or the group for the MOUs and the one-stops. At the interagency team level, they've created a service matrix that Tony included on her presentation, and that pretty much outlines all of a polling of all of the partners as far as what services they intend to provide in the comprehensive one-stop in the local area, meeting the requirements of the law and the direct linkage requirements. So that's something that if you've seen that, then you can kind of start collaborating with those partners locally because they've agreed to that at the state level, that that's the services that they will be providing in the comprehensive centers. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, Pam's follow-up to the business services team question is she's more interested in what they do regarding training and retraining specifically, as opposed to just, stating that you do some training for the businesses. Again, Tori, maybe if you can expand on what you've already provided as information, or if not, reach out to Pam, I guess, if we're still not sure what she's asking.
I think she's asking.
No, I can speak to that. The business service team, when we go out to visit employers, we don't only talk to them about IDS services. We have partners, and we partner with the WIOA in different areas around the state. I know with Pam, WIOA 4, we're meeting quarterly with Diana. I know with Mark Lohman, we meet every Monday with Lynn. So we're meeting with the WIOAs around the state. But when we go out to visit, we don't just promote IDS services. If the employer has a need for training, then we tell them that we have a partner and we promote the WIOA training, whether it's on the job training or any other training programs that they have. So IDS does not have a job training program that we promote when we go out, but we do promote the LWIS program.
Okay. Then I think one of the final questions, this is open up a big one, what are the prospects for consolidation, integration, and interface between JobLink and Illinois WorkNet? I don't think any of us here are prepared to respond to that. But it certainly brings up the point, again, of coordination of services. It goes beyond that. Title 1B uses Illinois Workforce Development System, IWDS system, for our intake, and other providers use their intake system. And so at what point will the coordination of efforts include maybe a common intake system? Boy, that's probably years down the road, to be honest with you. That's just a big project if it occurs. So I think we obviously can't answer that now, but it's definitely a point to be considered in those discussions at the interagency team, that they consider all elements of workforce and WIOA as far as, not only the face-to-face contact and person-to-person contact with our customers, but how case management and intake and performance and all these things are going to occur. It's why we, think things are going slowly in these meetings, but really there's just so much to discuss. They're occurring. They're including an awful lot of information and awful lot of points of consideration. And so, we hope to start seeing some things sooner than we are, but we can only go as fast as the meetings and the discussion will allow, and we've got an awful lot of people involved in those. So, bear with all of us, the agency partners, as well as Title 1B here, as we progress through this. And we'll continue to keep everybody updated. Lisa's done a good job of that in the past webinars. When there was something to share that she thought was beneficial, then she has stepped in and provided that information, since she does sit on those interagency team meetings, and as well as KEB staff that facilitate them. They provide information as best they can. They are unavailable this week, but I don't think there was anything new to share. We'll make sure to point out to them for next week's webinar that if they do have anything new to share, they step in and provide us an update of any other new developments. Are there any, I think that was the last question. Pam, we will provide this to Illinois WorkNet. It's being recorded as usual. We will update that site to include this presentation. We will update to include the handout, and we will try to do Q&A if possible. We do a transcript of the chat pod, but that doesn't really give the answers, since we do verbally provide the answers. So until we can get a Q&A posted, really the best way to find the answers is to go back and review the webinar recording. I'd like to see if, I know you've got a lot of staff that joined us today, Tony, if any of them would like to, if they have expertise in another area, and I want to give them an opportunity to share any insight they might have that might address some of the questions we've had today, or anything else that maybe came up in your thought process as the presentation was going on. So please, if any of you want to provide any other additional information, please do.
Can I take a time? I know I probably necessarily didn't do the Veterans Program any justice, so I kind of wanted to ask Gil LaRoche. He's our Assistant Statewide Manager of the Veterans Program. Can he, because I saw someone, they also mentioned the levers with regard to how they reach out to employers. Can you speak a little bit on what the levers do with the employers as well, too?
Excuse me, this is Gil LaRoche. Again, I'm the Assistant Veterans Program Manager for the State of Illinois. And in regards to the LVERs, those veterans that have processed through our intensive services program, those that may need some additional assistance with a significant barrier to employment, once provided that assistance and they become I guess the terminology would be job ready. They're prepared to go out and look for work. That either through training, resume, interviewing, all those skills put together, and it's a complete package. When they're ready to do that, there's a referral made over to the LVER, the Local Veterans Employment Representative, and they are specifically tasked with job developing an opportunity for that individual and their skill set with a particular employer that would meet that. So the LVER and the DVOP, the LVER, and the Wagner-Peyser staff all work together as very much a team, and it can't be done with one piece missing. All three have to work together, and it's become very successful.
Thanks, Gil. I just kind of wanted to mention how, because like I said, I don't necessarily think I did the Veterans Program any justice with regard to our business services, but
I think you did very well. Yeah. I just wanted to add one other thing. There was a change to some of the requirements as well to the services and available support services to 3 additional categories of individuals, not just the 18 to 24-year-olds, which was designated by Secretary of Labor, but it was also for transitioning service members, members of the armed forces who are wounded, ill, injured, or receiving treatment at a facility, like wounded warrior kind of situation, and those individuals, spouses and or family caregivers. So family caregivers are also eligible to receive services through the Veteran Services Program as well. And just wanted to mention that. It could be a parent, spouse, step family member, extended family member, those that are providing direct care to a particular wounded warrior. So I wanted to mention that.
That's great. I know with Title 1B, we added transitional service members to our definition as well, but I'm not sure if and it includes spouses, but I'm not sure if we include family caregivers. So we're going to have to research that and determine if that applies also to the Title 1B. Or do you know, does that apply to all elements of WIOA, all of the programs of WIOA?
All those that are receiving DOL funding, yes.
Okay, so we'll have to look at that in our definition and make sure we include it.
Yes, sir. One of the things you might want to look at in going through the Department of Labor, where they have all the Veterans Program letters, which is basically the guidance from the Director and Department of Labor Secretary, and the Veterans Employment and Training Service. It's Veterans Program Letter 08-14, which indicates those additional populations that are eligible for services. So I just wanted to mention that in case somebody hadn't heard of that prior. And the SBEs are also listed, significant barriers to employment are also listed in Veterans Program Letter 0314 and 414. That's the age bracket 18 to 24. 314 has there's 6 categories, but all of those categories, including the financial income barrier or limits, are federal numbers, and those are usually, and all of those are identified on the Veterans Intake Form that that each individual fills out when they go to the job centers, work centers. So it asks those questions. So it's all on self-identification. Once they do that, then the particular program services are developed with an individual employment plan, and if they need intensive services, the DVOP handles those individuals directly. It's one-on-one. So all of that's identified on the form in each of the offices. So I won't have to list them here, but if you wanted to go and look at the Department of Labor Veteran Program Letter, they're all listed there.
Great information. We'll bring that to our attention for policy purposes and for our individual that handles a lot of our eligibility questions. He's out of the office today, so he wasn't able to join us, but we'll make sure Jim is aware of all these various veterans TEGLs, or well, they're not TEGLs under veterans, but the veterans guidance
program letters. Yes. Yeah. If anybody wanted to contact myself and or Richard Withridge, who is a program manager, he is at the current NASWA conference starting today through Friday, and be more than happy if you wanted to email me. It's just gil.laroche, at illinois.gov, and myself or Richard will be more than happy to provide a reference or an answer.
Great. Excellent information. Okay, I don't know if we've got any additional questions, unless somebody wants to have a final quick one they want to throw on the telephone line rather than type it in. Next week's webinar will be on CTE, Technical Education, Career and Technical Education Programs. Brian Durham with Illinois Community College Board will be the presenter. We had Jennifer Foster from Adult Education last week, so those two will kind of tie together with a little break here for the IDS information. Again, as usual, 10 o'clock on Wednesday will be the beginning of the presentation, last about an hour to an hour and a half at the very most. We will provide any other additional insight that is necessary. Lisa, KEB will probably be facilitating next week, so I'll be out of the office next week. So everything will go smoothly as well, but we'll make sure that any questions that are left hanging from today we'll try to answer, as well as next week's session. If anyone has questions following that, they can always still be directed to me if necessary. Otherwise, I guess that's all the questions. I appreciate the presentation, Tony, all of the insight from the other staff at IDS, and all of the questions from the attendees. We continue to exceed expectations in my mind for the amount of people we have on these every week. I'm glad to see that because it shows that we are providing a valuable service to everyone, and the information is very relevant and needed. So again, everybody, thanks for this week's attendance, and we will look forward to you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.